The microphones are connected to the cameras?
No, microphones are connected to the little audio.
Oh, I see.
This is all XLR, so the problem is if you try to, they wouldn't be able to power them. So
Okay.
unless you want to sound ugly.
The pass. I had my fair share. I bought when I first started creating videos, I bought a lavalier microphone. And this was long before, but this was way before I ever made Lunsford Loves Wrestling, and I was even talking about wrestling. And I remember buying it for like $14, and it sounded so bad. And then I bought my DJI mics, and I love those things. I mean, they're awesome.
Oh, that looks better. Still ugly, but it looks better.
The world keeps spinning.
I know. I'm not actually insecure about being ugly. I just like saying it.
Okay. Well, I mean, pointing out your own flaws is part of. I guess.
Are you calling me ugly?
I mean, you call it yourself, so I mean.
Fair enough.
No. I never said those words. These are live cameras, now that I think about it. So
They're all.
Then again.
That's why I'm a little more extroverted. You need any writing paper or anything?
Oh, no.
Okay. You can write, right? I don't know. 19-year-olds. I don't know.
Oh my God! You need to stop that now. You're 21. You can't. Don't even try that.
What video editing software do you use?
CapCut.
Okay.
So I mean, you sent me a text about how the formatability from TikTok versus Instagram is different, and it is. And you can tell because there's a not significant, but there's a noticeable quality drop off between the TikTok post versus the Instagram post. And that's because I don't go to the CapCut app. I just do it through TikTok. So I record all my green screen videos on Snapchat. I do Snapchat, director mode, green screen.
That's why.
Put it behind me.
Okay.
And then save it, upload it to TikTok, and it looks fine then. You post it, then you go over to Instagram and post it, and it looks noticeably, the quality dips. I believe the remedy to that is to just go through CapCut's app the whole way, and that way when I export it, I can do one for TikTok, export it again, one for Instagram. So that's what I'm experimenting with today. Got a video coming out that I'm about to record the second I walk out of here. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice. Do you want to start with how you got started in wrestling?
Sure. I mean, at this point in time, 23 months ago, I did not wrestle. And a few months prior to that, I had no grappling combat sport experience, period. It all started with jiu-jitsu in this building that we're in. I still don't know what it was to this day that prompted me to enter into the BJJ gym, but like eternally grateful that I did. So I enter, and at the time, I was supposed to compete in powerlifting. I was benching around 265, I believe was the maximum I ever got, and I weighed 145 to 150 pounds. And when the records I was looking at through the powerlifting organization I wanted to compete with, that was the state record. So in my mind, I was like, if I am the strongest person in Virginia, no one who is smaller than me should be able to hold me down, submit me. Like that just wasn't even a thought in my mind. I go in there and I'm just getting ripped apart. I mean, everyone has their first oh shit moment in jiu-jitsu where it's like you walk in and you're like, I'm going to be able to do X, Y, and Z to someone, and then they do it to you. So I was like, there really is something to this jiu-jitsu thing. So I went back the next day, and then I went back the next week, and then it started going from, twice a week just doing the 5 to 6 p.m. classes to twice a week, 5 to 8. And then I started doing Muay Thai with Jay. So then it was 2 times a week, 5 to 9. And then I was like, well, why not 3 times a week, 5 to 9? And I was balancing this while working here, and I worked closing shifts, so I just tried moving it around my closing shifts. And then I would go in on Saturdays, and then slowly it built up until we had a grappling industries competition June whatever of 2023. And Dave was like, hey, you should compete in it. And I was like, I'm all for it. So this was, 3 months into jiu-jitsu. Sign up. I believe I competed at 155 pounds in no-gi, or in gi, my age group, and no-gi, the adult age group.
Because you said you were 17.
I was 17 at the time, correct. I competed, I lost my first match, won my second match, we had a best of 3, and then lost my third match by points with I was terrible. It was 3 seconds left. I had an Americana. I'll show you the footage. It's actually really funny. And then my next match, and this story is so funny to me because I'm good friends with the guy who I competed against. His name, I'm not going to say his name, but he is a state champ wrestler for Gonzaga, which is a private school out in DC. And they bumped me up a weight because no one was in the same age group and weight class as him. So I was going against 170 pounds, no gi, against this dude who looked huge. He looked like a tank. And I remember the ref right before the match started was like, "You guys both look like wrestlers. Be safe, play it smart, kind of thing." And he did not be safe. He killed me. 2 straight matches. It was like underhook, throw by, body lock, mat return, Americana. Match was over. And then it happened again because it was a best of three. Um, and then at that point in time, I was like, "There's something to this wrestling thing," and so I still didn't start right away after that. I believe I was on vacation and there was concerts going on. I was still, trying to have my fun with everything. And then late July, early August is when I started going to a club located in Vienna, Virginia, Legend Wrestling Club. And that's when everything slowly started to build. And then school came back and we had these things called Green Days, which are just unofficial practices. And I would go to those twice a week and I'd go to Legend once a week. So, I mean, it was still just 3 days of wrestling. But I would go straight from the Green Days to here. And I remember me and Bob had a conversation because I wasn't showering in between the wrestling practice and the jiu-jitsu. And he was like, "Dude, you're going to get X, Y, and Z," and which I did. Um, you know, Things are picking up. I'm wrestling more and more. And then in my first competition in October of 2023, I wrestle a state champ my first match, who is once again a good friend of mine now. Nothing but good things to say about the guy that I wrestled. And he killed me. I made it to the second period, which was, looking back on it, kind of crazy that I even made it to the second period. Noticeably bigger, obviously just better. In every facet of wrestling, he was a better, more complete wrestler than I was. And then in my backside match, after I lost, I wrestled this kid who was an 8th grader. And he took me down once, and then we were going into the second period. I think he chose neutral, and then he shoots, and are you familiar with the sprawl? Someone shoots, you sprawl. I sprawled on the inside of my foot, which caused my knee was like this, my foot was like this, and then when you sprawl, it went like this. So my patella dislocated, moved all the way out to the right. My MCL and my MPFL, which is what connects your patella to your knee, completely torn, fully torn. So they ended up, the ambulance comes in, I screamed. Very funny video, actually. I screamed, they come in, they're going to say, "Hey, we're going to give you some fentanyl." My coach, I remember I was trying to look up and look at it. My coach, she thankfully just slammed my head back down. She was like, "You will not look at this." And when I got into the ambulance, I just remember crying. I remember being like, obviously the injury sucks, but like the pain was already over. But I was wrestling and this was my first ever competition, and I managed to, what in my head was a season-ending injury. I mean, my knee was on the opposite side. Kneecap was on the opposite side of where it should be. It was gnarly. And then we go to the hospital, they pop it back in. The video went mega viral, like 100+ million views, which is hilarious. I got no credit for it. But then I start, going to the doctor, and they're like, "Oh, this is just like a 6-week, 3 days was my time frame from injury to returning back to wrestling." So I do PT, and then I'm back. More apprehensive on things. Obviously, I learned how to sprawl better. And even to this day, I have no issues. I have not missed a day of PT since, doing PT back in, at the time would have been November of 2023. So just super on top of everything I needed to do. I got back, and for the first, really, 3 months in wrestling, I believe my record was 14-10 in my first year of wrestling. So I got back, I started competing, and, there's just so many things that you don't know. And looking back on it, it's like, well, obviously you should have done this instead of this. But at the time, it's just, my coach tells me to do something, I'm going to do it. And I still am that way. But now I have a bit of a different understanding looking back and being like, maybe that wasn't the best thing for me. In terms of learning 1,000 different things versus one thing that you're really good at. And then towards the end of the season, there's a phenomenal YouTuber, Caden Henschel. He's the most well-known wrestling YouTuber. He has a slide by, which is a wrestling move, and it was beautiful. And I remember watching his videos, and I was thinking to myself, that takedown looks so efficient on people. I should learn that. And then I got into the room the next day, and I hit 20 slide bys after practice. And then the day after that, 20 slide bys after practice. Day after that, 20 slide bys after practice. Until it got to a point where in matches, it felt so natural. So I would just hit slide bys, and quite literally, because I did a project on my first season of wrestling for my dual enrollment geospatial class. And it mapped out every single takedown that I had in my first year. And it was, opponent, team, match score, what period I got the takedown, what takedown it was. And I noticed when I was filling in the data, I was like, oh my God, 60% of my takedowns are slide bys. And I got but I got proficient at that move enough that when it got time to wrestle at regionals, I performed and I got second in the region and I was a state qualifier. And then I went 1 and 2 at states. And then I was like, you know what? This wrestling thing and wrestling in college, which, isn't even a thought in your mind. You get your knee blown out and you're not going to be back until really a quarter way through the high school wrestling season is when you're cleared to start wrestling again. And then all of a sudden it's, my coach now, Coach Roy Hill, who I have nothing but such high praise to say about this gentleman. He called me and he was like, hey, we're really impressed with what you did your first year. We'd love for you to wrestle at Marymount University, which is where I now attend. And that was awesome. That was so cool. Then after the season, it was more training, more competing. In wrestling, there's 3 different styles. So you have folk style, freestyle, and Greco-Roman. Folk style is the high school and collegiate season. And there's different rule sets for each, and I'd be happy to break them down, but just for an overall view, the second your collegiate or high school season is over, you transition into freestyle, Greco, or both. So I went straight from folk style in my first year to freestyle in my first year. And I competed, I want to say 3 times. I want to say I went like 7 and 4 in freestyle competitions. And then it was college. And then, just training, college time. And that is when my right shoulder in specific, started to present issues. So rewind a little bit. A week before my regional tournament, we were wrestling live, and I remember shooting in on a shot. I get a weird, funky sprawl from my teammate, and my shoulder goes forward and out. And I I roll over, and I'm like, and then I grab it, and it pops back in. And I was like, okay, cool, give me a second. So I sit out of practice for all of 4 minutes, and then I'm back in. And at the time, I knew something wasn't right. I got a shoulder brace. I got it looked at by a doctor, the same one who looked at my knee, and he was like, you should get an MRI. Your shoulder popped out of its socket. But because there was no pain, my strength was still there. It's just this one-off thing that happened. I was like, it's whatever. And then throughout the course of the end of the high school season to the beginning of the college season, it popped out, I want to say twice. One time when I was wrestling and another time when me and Bob were rolling. So I knew something was wrong. That's not normal. Shoulders, joints, they don't pop out for no reason. Get to college, and within the first month, I was wrestling with a really good friend of mine, and I go slide by, he circles around, and I kept my arms here. He keeps circling, pushes it, past the point where it's supposed to be, slips out again, pops right back in. I'm like, okay, cool. And then we have a practice where I remember this so vividly. It was the 3rd official practice of the season on a Friday. And this practice, I remember the night before, when we wrapped up with practice on Thursday night, coach was like, make sure you guys get a good night of sleep. Make sure you guys are ready to go tomorrow. And wrestling coaches don't say that because we're going to have a super fun time. It's dodgeball the whole practice. They're saying that because next practice is going to try to break you. And I get into the room and, we warm up, we play dodgeball, and it's light and it's fun. And then it's, okay, tuck your shirts in, tape your shoes, make sure everything is tight because there will be no water. There will be no breaks for the next hour and a half you guys are going. And then we're like, okay, well, what is it that we're doing for the next hour and a half? Live. You are wrestling 100% live for the next hour and a half. That's it. And
with breaks or no breaks?
the breaks that we got were in between 20 minutes of live, you would run sprints. And then once those sprints were over, you would go again. And I want to say maybe 4 minutes into my live go with my teammate. And we're going back and forth. He takes me down first. I take him down second. He reverses me. I stand up, escape. And then I remember this so perfectly. I just remember thinking to myself, shoot. And no setup, no nothing. I was just like, I think I have the ability to, go straight through him, which I don't. Just point blank period. That's not the type of wrestler I am. And I don't even know why I thought that I could do that. Because I don't shoot those type of shots. And I do it, my shoulder pops out. And I stood there for a second and it didn't pop right back in right away. So I grab it and then it pops back in. So I'm like, okay, cool. I go to the trainer and they're like, yeah, you subluxated your shoulder, which I knew. I knew what was wrong. I knew, that this injury is becoming more frequent. And I was just like, you know what? It's whatever. I'll take 4 days off and then I'll be fine. And that was October of 2024. I was wrestling from October to really late November. And I competed in my first tournament in college. I went 2-1. Competed in my second tournament in college, went 2-2. And then at this point in the season, I was having so much fun. I was making the mistakes I needed to make to grow as a second-year wrestler in college. I was competing well. I was practicing well. My weight was good. And I didn't cut an ounce of weight. I would wake up and wrestle the weight class because talking with my coaches, the thought process was, hey, it's your second year of wrestling. What do you get out of cutting 15 pounds to make 2 weight classes lighter? Just wrestle what you wake up at. And I was like, you know what? I love that. So then after the competition where I went 2-2 at, me and my teammate, we went in on a day we didn't have practice. So you'd compete on Saturdays, you'd have off practice Monday. That's just how most college programs run it, just because they want to give you some time off so you're not practicing 5 days a week and then competing. So on Monday, we go in, I get off of work, and I remember thinking to myself, life is so great. My shoulder feels good. It hasn't popped out in a month. I'm wrestling well, and I'm still, messing up and learning what I need to learn. And then it happens again. And this time, this would be the 5th or 6th time it's subluxated. I just remember thinking to myself, this feels different. This does not feel like the other times, because my external rotation at this point was like here. I go into my coach's office, I'm like, coach, it happened again. And he was like, you need to see a doctor. So I bit the bullet, went to the doctor. Obviously, when you have an injury like that, the doctor is not going to tell you that you're cleared to wrestle again. So he was like, you need to be away from the mat, and you'll get an MRI, and we'll figure it out from there. I get the MRI, and like I said, strength was still there. My in the gym, I love weightlifting. So weightlifting, it all was still there. I could still do pull-ups. I was doing PT on my shoulder every single day. And I was thinking to myself, like, it's probably nothing. Naively, obviously. So then I get the MRI back, and it is a torn labrum. The front part of my interior labrum is torn. When you tear your labrum, they give you the measurements as if it were a clock. And I forget the exact measurements, but it's usually like 12-1 if it's your front part. Nah, might not be right. But like 12-4, I want to say, was my tear. And then I had something called a Hill-Sachs deformity, which is a tear in your rotator cuff. So, I go into the doctor, we get the MRI report, and he was like, hey, you need surgery. And I was like, well, when can we get it? It really sucks, having that taken away from you. And at least when you're done with surgery, you have the comfort of knowing I am on the road to recovery. But the 2-week gap in between knowing that I needed surgery and the surgery date was really hard. You're watching your teammates wrestle, and you have a working arm at the time, but you know that the second you go in there, you could mess it up even worse. The surgery can get way more complicated. You'll need another MRI. So I just had to watch as the sport I love to do and the teammates that I love battling with were doing the thing that I couldn't do. Got surgery, and I went to practice every single day. Like, did not miss a day. And at practice, I would bike. And I'll show you, I had some crazy, crazy bike sessions because I was so angry is the right word, just because I couldn't do what I was just dying to do.
Was it anger or frustration?
Frustration, anger. I mean, all of those emotions where it's, you want to do something so bad and you just can't. I would go on the bike, and I would bike from the beginning of practice to the end of practice. And the most I ever did, I want to say, was 56 miles, because in my brain, I was like, I want to get 2 marathons done in one practice. And I just went. I mean, I would just go. And I was in a sling. So I would hold on to the bike, and I was in a sling like this, and I would just bike like crazy. And I was still wrestling. And my roommate, Ian Morales, who is one of the most wonderful people I've ever met, would still wrestle with me when I was in a sling. So he would just kind of be a dummy. And everything I could do with one arm, he would let me do. And that helped my mental more than anything else. You're not learning any new technique with one arm. You learn new technique when you're injured by looking at it and watching your coaches demonstrate it. But you can't do it. There is no second arm to use. So him being there, I mean, it just really helped me. And I would get texts from coaches, current and former, and teammates saying, I understand where you're going through is really hard. We're all here for you. Please let us know if you need anything. And that meant so much to me. So much to me. And then it's, we move into January. Okay, well, now it's 1 month since surgery. What can I do? Well, Henry, you really can't do anything. You can't even lift 5 pounds yet. Well, okay, well, then let's lift 5 pounds. And then it's February, and it's 2 months. And it's
so your arm was like completely...
It was, I will show you pictures. It was dead. It was tiny. Half of the size of what it is now. And I mean, it's still smaller than this side. But like, seriously, I'm telling you, it's as thin as these microphone stands. It was shocking. It was nothing. Okay. There was nothing there. And then February came around and it's like, well, now you can do 10 pounds. And it's like, okay, well, let's do 10. And then it was March and you can do 15. And every single day in either before practice, I would get my PT done right after work, or during practice, I would get my PT done. And at this point, I had 2 arms, which means I could wrestle with no one in front of me. I would do stance and motion. All you're doing is moving in your stance, and I couldn't sprawl because when you sprawl, you need to put both hands down to the mat. So that was out of the question, but shots, down blocks, circling, snaps, all of that stuff was, I would just do it. And I'd do 9 minutes. So I'd do a full match plus overtime. And then I'd go on the bike. And it was that over and over and over. And then eventually April came. And April is when things started like I could use this arm. I was still apprehensive with it. I still knew that there were certain positions that I could not do. I could not wrestle live, but I started reaching out to coaches. And I was like, hey, I would absolutely love to come into your practice room. Let me know. And the wrestling community is so incredible. Everyone is welcoming. So one of the practices that I frequently attend is out in Warrenton. And this is the best club in Virginia and has been for quite some time, Integrity Wrestling. And I texted the coach and I was like, hey, I'd absolutely love to come. He was like, 100%. These practices were hard. They really sucked. And I remember this one was so funny. Shout out Matthew Arndt. We would start practice by running around their neighborhood, really. So we'd run. And then coach was standing at the bottom of their driveway, steep driveway, like seriously like this. And it was probably a quarter mile. And he goes, okay, backward or bear crawl to me, backwards barrel crawl back up the hill. And I was like, okay, cool. With your partner on your back. I was I still am like 158 pounds. That's what I walk around at. And the guy on my back was 174 pounds. And this was like, only 4 months after surgery. Probably not the smartest idea, but I did it. And the only times I would say, no, coach, I can't do that is when we would wrestle live. And he understood. He totally was acceptable of it. All coaches are. They totally understand that, the fact that you're in the room when you're so fresh off surgery means more than you think it does. And it's just been that. So I got cleared to wrestle live in the past 2 weeks, and it's been so fun. I mean, there are very few things I find more enjoyment out of than hitting someone as hard as I can. And it sounds like, I punch metal for fun kind of thing, but I love battling. I love getting my hands on people. I love wrestling. So, and having it taken away from you. I hated live wrestling before I got hurt. I hated it. There was a performance thing in my mind. I'd get nervous and, then you have it taken away from you. And it's like something you thought you didn't like is completely removed from your life. And you just want to do it. You want to get back into it. You want to get your hands on people. So the second I was able to do it, it was like, all right, well, we're full speed. Like, I just want to go out there and I'd find the best guy in, I was just down in Blacksburg in Virginia Tech. We have a few nationally ranked guys on Team Virginia. And, when we were going live, I would just be like, hey, let's go. So shout out Blake, because I'm going to see him later tonight. But this dude is an animal, and he's going to be competing this weekend, and I look forward to watching him become an All-American because he is absolutely that caliber of wrestler. But one of the best guys in the room, I went up to him. He's bigger than me, and I was like, let's go. And then another guy, number 5 in the country at 165 pounds. I was like, let's wrestle. So that's just where I'm at now, trying to get into all of these high-level rooms. There are certain opportunities that I have been very graciously given that I'm keeping private for now because I like it to be a surprise. I was just up in PA training with Bo Bassett, who is, it's hard to equate this to a basketball or a football high school equivalent, but he is bar none the most popular high school wrestler, period. 195,000 followers on Instagram. He has brand deals, and he is an incredible one-of-one type of wrestler. And that was really cool to go up there and see him wrestle and train with him and his group. And, these opportunities just keep coming. And my answer will always be yes, because I love training with the best guys in the country.
Why do you love it? Why do you love wrestling so much?
I'm so new.
Okay.
That's why.
It's the novelty.
There's when you don't, I don't want to say I didn't have a purpose before I was 17 years old, because that's a little silly. But my hobbies were, I still love weightlifting. But weightlifting is, Steven said it was like maintenance. I like that. I weightlift because I enjoy it, but it is also just because I like being strong. I like being able to move heavy weights. Like, that's fun to me. But like weightlifting and working. I worked prior to wrestling and nutrition and all the stuff that I have now a super big interest in. I worked so much. I worked here so much, and I love that. But it's still, work is great. But it's not, there's no greater purpose in work. You can't change someone's life by selling them a smash burger, although our smash burgers are incredible.
They're pretty good.
Exactly. There is like a certain, especially now with the social media part of wrestling, that if I know someone is watching my videos and they look at it and they go, well, what's this guy talking about? What's this wrestling thing? And then they start researching into it. Maybe they get a pair of shoes. Maybe they go into a practice room. I find so much enjoyment out of that aspect of wrestling. And back then it was just, I had no expectations of myself. I was like, it's my first year. I'm not going to be able to do anything, but let's just see how it goes. And I enjoy, to a degree, getting beat up because truthfully, you want to know how you get better at jiu-jitsu, you wrestle or you roll with someone better than you, and then you ask them questions after. It's the same thing with wrestling. The same thing with combat sports. You get beaten, and then you ask, and then you learn, and then the next time it happens to you, you're either going to let it happen again, or you're going to try your best to mitigate the damage that it did to you the last time. So that part of wrestling is also super awesome to me. I love seeing progress. And you don't even know it's there until all of a sudden it's like, wait, he hit that on me 5 times last practice. He hit that on me 4 times this practice in the same amount of time. And I noticed that he wasn't finishing nearly as easy. He wasn't getting in on his shots nearly as easy. That part of wrestling, I love. It's tattooed on my chest. Consistently good over occasionally great. I love consistency. I love being able to monitor what it is I'm doing and seeing the tiny, tiny jumps that I'm making from practice to practice. And then in a year, it's a leap. It's a big jump. If I wrestled me 12 months ago, I would dismantle him. And I know that. And in a year from now, I would be shocked if I wouldn't dismantle current me. And that's how it always should be.
So I asked Jason Key before before he left for vacation about you, and he said that when you first came to XCal, you were a completely different person than who you are now. And he said it in such like a loving way that I like there's nothing bad about it. So what was your life before wrestling, before XCal, before all of this?
Great question. First things first, shout out Jason Key. That man, I don't believe I voiced my gratitude for him as a character in my life enough. And he has been an integral part of the person I am today. Before XCal, before all of this, I don't want to say I was hanging with the wrong crowd because I'm still friends with these people and I still value their friendship and I will obviously always be there for them. But, I'm allowed to talk about drinking. Like that stuff, all fair play.
Jay Johnson's entire episode was him swearing the heck out of it.
Cool.
Like I didn't cut it out anymore. He's like, I don't care.
As long as it's fair play. So 7th grade going into 8th grade year, people I'm still friends with today, but we discovered alcohol. And at the time it was like, we'd sneak 2 White Claws away from someone's mom's fridge and we'd share them between 8 people. We thought it was the coolest thing ever. Then once you're an 8th grader going into freshman year, all of a sudden there's seniors in high school. They have fake IDs. So we were playing football and, after football, they'd go buy us a pack of White Claws and then 2, and then we'd go to someone's basement and we'd drink. And then it became sort of like this was COVID as well. So there was no school. There was nothing going on except, you'd have football in the mornings. And even then, we couldn't touch a ball because of the COVID rules. We could only run. So we'd condition for 2 hours. We'd probably hit a lift after. And then from, 1 to 10 p.m., we had nothing to do. So we occupied it with substances. And that, in this case, it was alcohol. So that started, and it would, it's not crazy. I was 14, which is crazy thinking about it. But it was like 2 to 3 times a week that we would drink and we would get drunk, and then we'd go to parties. And I look back at this and like, yes, it's silly and it's immature, but I also had fun. And I'm happy that I went through that experience because it made me who I am today, the whole separate thing. But, then my freshman year rolls around and it was still like 2 to 3 times because we had online school. Like we were doing nothing. So then day drinking, and you would drink more often than you usually would. Football season ended and then I had no obligations. So it went from 2 to 3 maybe times a week to 3 to 4. And that's how it was throughout kind of I was 15, by the way, just crazy. But throughout my whole, essentially March to September. And then it got worse. It got way worse. I was hanging around people who were 2 grades older than me. And, when you are young and naive, and I still am, but I can look back on it now and realize that I'm looking at these older people. They're skipping school. They're going to day drink, and they're doing it frequently. And in my mind, I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. Like, I have to do that. So then I would get a ride from I'm still really good friends with this guy now, but I'd get a ride from him, and we'd leave school at like 2. He had early release. I would skip PE. So I would just skip class entirely. And we'd go, and we day drink, and then it was like, you'd be drinking Friday through Sunday, and then it was like 2 times a week. So, I mean, if you're doing the math here, that's 4 to 5 times a week that you're drinking. And then it got crazy. And, this was, I want to say, like a 2-month period, probably September to December. So 3 months where it was like I hit a bottle of vodka in the ceiling of the Riverside bathroom. This is not a joke. Like, it was the craziest thing ever. Me and my buddy, we would leave PE, go to the bathroom, take shots, and then go back to the classroom. And that's just what it was. So there would be a volleyball game that evening, per se. So we would leave, start drinking at 2 p.m., go to the bathroom, and then we just do that over and over. School would end, it's 4:18. We're drunk. We are drunk 15-year-olds at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday. And then, we just continue it, and it kept building all the way up until, are you familiar with Four Locos? If anyone who is not familiar with Four Locos, let me educate you. They are 14% alcoholic beverages, and they are tall. I want to say 24-ounce cans.
What's the usual percentage of alcohol?
It would be like this size can, and it'd be 5%. So essentially triple the ABV, the alcoholic beverage volume, and double the size. And I shotgunned 2 of those right before football game.
Okay.
From then, I went to the football game, fell into a family. A cop pulled me to the side, and I remember being so adamant. I was yelling. I was like, "You have to let me into the game!" Like, because this was called the Battle of the Bums. It was Riverside versus Briar Woods. We were both 0-9. That was our football team's records for both teams. So, the winner would get 1 win, the other would go 0-10. We ended up losing. But that was like, I needed to get into the game. I needed to see the Battle of the Bums. So I get pulled to the side. I'm like, breathalyze me right now. Like, I'll pass it, I swear. For me, I'm inebriated and 16 at the time. I did not think an officer would have a breathalyzer on him. Pulls out the breathalyzer, and I said, I plead the 5th. You cannot do that. You cannot do that.
You can do it in a court of law. You can't do it with a police officer.
Especially after you are completely asking, you're requesting
You've consented.
Yes. So then I got sent to an in-school rehab program. I had ISR, which is in-school restriction, which is honestly kind of the best thing ever. You just like, you're not allowed to go to your classes, so you get your work all at the beginning of the day, and then you're just in a room for the next 6 hours. So it was it was the best thing ever. And from then on, nothing changed. I was still the exact same person. That wasn't a wake-up call really at all. God, what is happening? What was I doing sophomore summer? I feel old not remembering this, but I was just the same person who didn't know my identity, but I knew I liked being drunk. I liked people thinking I liked validation. I loved validation. And people around me saying, hey, this kid's so drunk all the time, it's kind of funny, was enough reason for me to drink almost every single day. Sometimes every single day.
So validation and popularity.
Oh my God, it was like, it was so necessary. I couldn't live without it. It was insane. So like talking about purpose now is grow wrestling, touch as many hearts as possible, bring wrestling to a bigger platform. Purpose then was, I need people to like me. I will do whatever it takes to get people to like me, and I will drink however much I need to get people to like me.
So it's like that saying, you can either chase butterflies or you can build a garden.
Absolutely. And I was chasing the butterflies. And like I said, nothing changed. So I got out of rehab. I was still drinking just as often. I was still hanging around those people. And then in April of this would be 2022, went through a breakup, and that crushed me. It just like destroyed me at the time. And that's when I started working here. Shout out Nathan. Nathan is one of the cooks here, and he helped me get through a lot of stuff that I didn't tell him at the time because we weren't nearly as close as we are now. But him being around me all the time because we worked together so much really, really helped me. And then my best friend comes back he moved to Mississippi, and he comes back and everything kind of starts looking up. I was grossly overweight at this time. I had a skin issue. I was so big. Like, it was terrible. and I was bald, like fully bald, down to the skin. I buzzed my hair for $37 at a party because people recorded it, and people posting it on their story was cool enough for me to do it. So that part, so mixed with, you're going through a breakup, your self-confidence is destroyed because you inflicted it on yourself, and you really don't have anyone who can relate to what you're going through. And what you're going through is so sad that you don't even want to talk to people about it.
What was about it that, without like talking about her or any
Yeah,
defamation
absolutely.
or anything, what was about that breakup that was more self-inflicted?
It was the first time I'd gone through something like that. So
Just the first. Okay.
the first one, and I had no understanding of what life was after this person. So, it happened, and then my image was crushed. I was so defeated. And then my best friend came back, and, I was working here, and that brought me some sense of family and community. I started losing weight, and not healthily. Like, looking back on it, it was like 1,400 calories. You're eating tuna and mustard was my go-to, because it's mustard 0 calories, tuna's high in protein. What else do you need? A lot, actually. And then we go to Ocean City in 2022, and that was the most fun I think I've ever had. And it was just nice. I was surrounded by people that I felt comfortable around. I was comfortable in my own skin again. I felt, I don't know if whole is the right word, but I felt like a part of me come back that was missing. But my antics, my motivation in life was still the exact same.
Yeah.
Nothing really changed.
So as of right now, most of your journey has been almost like something to fill an attention deficit.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
It's
Like,
not.
was it like a childhood thing, or was it just
I've always been funny. Like when I talk to people, there's a way that I'd like to think this about myself, that like I can get to someone's humor no matter who they are. Like I feel like I can find your niche and make you laugh. And making people laugh is awesome. I still love doing that. I love doing that so much. And back then it was, oh, these people think I'm funny, so I'm gonna get invited to these hangouts. So I'd make them laugh. I'd get invited, and then it became like I was almost a bully in a sense that I had no reason or authority or image to be that type of person. I wasn't attractive. I wasn't jacked. Like I was none of the things. I was nothing. And I still found a sense of humor from picking out someone's flaws. There's so much I can go into about who I was prior that I look back at, and it's like I was a horrible person. And I have zero shame is the right word. I have zero shame in admitting that, because I can see the difference from who I was versus who I am now and who I will be in 5 years. And I'm proud of the fact that I've made tremendous strides as a person, as an athlete. Like that's all great, but I'm not going to not look back and be like, yeah, no, that was really awful. I did some not great things to a lot of people. And I'd like to pride myself in being the first person to point out my own shortcomings. And these stories that I'm telling you are so few. I could go on for hours about things that I've done that I think about frequently, that it's like I had no right to do what I did.
Oh, if you want to go into that, it's fine with me.
I see you writing down notes, so I'm curious about.
It's more of just stuff that, because generally when episodes go through, I have something I want to save for later, but if the conversation starts going somewhere else, I'll abandon it. So there was one thing, which is, I don't know if there's a direct quote with it, but it's the idea that there's the friends that you used to have and the friends that you're going to have, and then there's that gray zone of growth where you don't fit in with the friends you used to have, but you don't yet have the connections of the ones that you want to have.
Yes.
Are you in that gray zone right now, or?
I have a very similar. I forget where I got this from, and I really wish I could quote this directly. But it's the idea of day ones versus day twos. So your day one friends, you are local to them. Like if you really think about it, the reason why you have your friends that you made in high school is because you went to the same high school. And then all of a sudden you graduate and you're going off to a completely different school with a completely different set of people around you. And in my case, I was going off to wrestle. So already I had a built-in sense of friends that had at least a very common interest, which was wrestling, between all of us. So, I would go out to these tournaments and I'd talk to these wrestlers, and I was like, you know what? These people are who I need to be around. Because if I want to grow as a person and as a wrestler and as an athlete, it needs to be not surrounded by the people who I drank all the time with. It needs to be with the people who all they think about is wrestling. And I love that. So in terms of where I'm at, I'd say, I don't think I'm in the gray zone. I believe I've met the people who I would consider my day two friends that share very similar hobbies to me, the exact same hobby, actually, and are all very respectful. They're the type of people that I wish I surrounded myself with when I was 14. But I didn't know that existed. I mean, you don't know until you know. And like looking back on it, it's like, well, obviously I should have started wrestling when I was 14, but I didn't. And that's, everyone has their own journey and everyone gets the same destination a different way, I feel. So I believe the friends that I've made now, my day twos, as I'll call them, I will be closer. I will have more commonality with them than a good majority of my day ones. And there is nothing wrong with that. I will still respect everyone who I've come in contact with, whether it be since we were 6 or whether it be when I meet you in 4 years. If we have, I respect everyone the exact same. I just can recognize the fact that our interests no longer align.
So your old friends were friends of circumstances. Your new ones are like friends of passion.
Yes. I really I like the way you put that.
There was an episode that went up Monday with Simon Sinek and author. It was on the Modern Wisdom podcast. And there was one thing he mentioned, which is the way he sees a relationship is where we both grow together. Would you say that the friends that you used to have weren't like that? So they were just friends because you had someone. Now you have friends because you found something that you have commonality and that it kind of gives you, for lack of a better word, like an intimacy that you share with that person.
I believe that the people I was friends with my freshman year of high school, I have grown with, just in a different way. I can recognize the fact that back then they were crazy. I mean, we all were. We were 14. So, like, looking at where they are now, I can say that, yeah, they've grown as people. I've just grown as a person in a different way. Right. Nothing wrong with that. If I never, ever stepped foot into a jiu-jitsu gym and got into wrestling, I would more than likely be at a fraternity at, Virginia Tech, one of these schools that my friends go to and are in fraternities at. And there is nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I would say that, the relationships where it benefits both people, I didn't benefit. I mean, obviously I didn't benefit from it. It wasn't good. But it wasn't parasitic. It wasn't me leeching or them leeching. It was just, we both don't know what we're doing in life. So we're going to enjoy it while we're young and we have no responsibilities. And then you grow up and you look back on it and obviously you have a different perspective because you didn't know. You had no idea what you wanted to be, what you wanted to do. So, I mean, everyone grows in their own way. And sometimes it's closer together with the people you're day ones with, or you suddenly, which is, I would argue, is a rare case, you find a different interest at age 17 that completely takes over your life. And that's just what happened to me. And I couldn't be more proud of the people I've met through wrestling, but I also couldn't be more happy of the people I met prior to wrestling.
2 questions, depending on which tangent you want to go off of. Are you more logical or more emotional? Or are you more extroverted, more introverted?
Oh, I really like the extroverted introverted question. So, shout out Talion Elliott, this is one of my roommates. I love this dude. We are in this program at Marymount called Saints Bees. But it's essentially, for athletes. You get together, you talk about leadership, you talk about, growing, what it takes to be a leader, like all that type of jazz. So we are in breakout groups. It's me, Talion, and these 3 girls on the softball team. And the question was, are you more introverted or are you more extroverted? And I answered introverted. So I'm talking in this group. I'm talking exactly how I'm talking to you right now. And I was explaining the reasons why I believe that I'm introverted. And the girl next to me, God, I wish I got her name because it was so funny. She was like, I'm talking to you right now. You are not an introvert. And I was like, what? And I didn't really know how to respond to that. And then Talion was like, yeah, you're not an introvert. What are you talking about? So I believe, ambivert is the term, but if I'm going to classify myself as one, I am more extroverted. I love shaking hands. I work in sales. I love shaking hands. I love talking to people. I love entering into rooms that I've never been in before and getting different perspectives from people. But my nighttime routine, this is going to sound crazy and this is not a lie. When I get back from wrestling practice, there's a swing set near my house. I kid you not. I put on my headphones. I shower, put on my headphones, go out to the swing set, and I go on the swings and I listen to music. That is my debrief. That is how I calm down. That is how I think about what happened in the day. Think about new video ideas, play Clash Royale. There are just things that I do there. And that's the introverted part of me. But my, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. is very extroverted. I'm out and I am trying to do as much as possible. If there's a person to shake hands with, I'm shaking their hand. If there's a dollar to be made, I'm making that dollar. But the second I have time to myself, it's not like how it used to be where it's like, okay, well, now I need to go out and drink and do that. I want time to myself. I'm going to cook my own food. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to enjoy what little time in the day I have to myself. And I love that. So answer extrovert, but obviously everyone has qualities of both. And then the other question
was, are you more logical or more emotional?
Logical. I remember this question specifically on the phone call. I believe that I act from a point of logic. And there are times where, everyone gets emotional. Everyone makes reactions and actions based off their emotion just because it's so, in the moment, it's a knee jerk. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to talk to someone a certain way because they came at me a certain way. And in the short time I've spent on this earth, I will still continuously try my best to be more logical and less emotional. And there are times where it pokes through. I believe that, so... Funny story. I work in sales, and I was doing a delivery at the Reagan Airport. So I was going over there to drop off parts for a construction company. So I pull up, I park my truck, and I roll the window down because this guy's coming up and he's waving at me in his hard hat. And I'm like, okay, cool. I wonder what he's going to say. Probably he's just going to pick up the packages. He yells at me, starts screaming at me. He's like, I don't even remember exactly what he says, but it was insane how loud he was yelling. So I roll the window up, I park the truck, I get out, and I go to grab the boxes. And then when I walk back to his side of the truck, still yelling, still screaming his head off at me. And then the project manager comes up, lovely lady, and she was like, hey, thank you so much. And while she's telling me this, I don't even know what this gentleman is to her in relationship-wise, screaming his head off at me. And I just remember thinking to myself, I was like, I'm going to try my absolute best to just completely ignore this person because that's what she's doing. And that is in one way that I feel like the logical part of me worked very well. I could have very easily, I'm not a yelling person, but I'm not afraid to be confrontational at all. Especially if you're yelling and screaming and threatening me, which he did. He was like, I'm going to put you in a headlock. And I remember looking at him at that point and I was like, this would go terribly for you. But I'm not going to, there's no ego in, sales. I'm not trying to prove a point to anyone. And that's a part of me that is very logical. Now, same job. So this person comes in and earlier in the day, we got a delivery from UPS and it was a package that was delivered to our address. The thing is, though, is that there's probably 15 buildings on this job site and it's suite A through Z. So we're suite I and the neighbors are suite, whatever, H, G, whatever letter comes prior. Can't do it in my head right now. But he comes in and I'm reading the address off the thing and I was like, we didn't order anything, but that's our address. I saw suite I on it. So I was like, okay, cool. Whatever. I'll just take it in. So I take it in and then 3 hours later, this dude knocks on the door. We think he has a clipboard. He looks like a textbook, hey, can I sell you a Bible kind of guy. So my coworker was like, oh, I've dealt with these people before. Let me go handle it. Opens the door and he acted out of emotion instantly. He was like,
the guy at the door.
No, my coworker opened the door and he was just like, what do you want? And I was like, no matter who you are, I don't care if you're selling me whatever. I'm never going to greet you with what do you want?
Unless you're selling drugs.
Literally. But if you're doing that business to business, I honestly respect you a little more. But he comes up and he's being very confrontational, very rude. And then the guy I see on his clipboard, he's holding it like this. There's a sticky note that says Lunsford, my last name. So I'm looking at it and I point to it and I'm like, that's my last name on it. What's up? And he was like, yeah, you guys grabbed a package earlier. Give me my shit back. That's what he said to me. And I remember my eyes went so wide. I didn't say anything. I just stared at him because I was trying to figure out the right way to process that. And, despite me, I didn't say anything. I just went to the back and I grabbed his stuff. There was emotion in the fact that I did not say anything because I was, you should not speak to people like that. And I get you were confronted by someone, but that's a completely different person from who you're talking to now. I get tensions are high, but it does not have to be like that. You have my last name there. You know what you want. You can ask it in a very reasonable way.
But there's also a possibility that guy just saw this guy and assumed that you were the same kind of...
Absolutely.
So it's relational. That's fine.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it went from my coworker acting from emotion to now this gentleman at the door acting from emotion to me acting from emotion. So, it's a triangle of, this domino falls, this guy reacts this way, and now he comes at me for asking a question. And I remember, and then, I give him his stuff, he left, and then my boss was like, I could tell that would have ended very badly for him because I saw how you reacted. And I was like, listen, I believe that I'm one of the nicest, most kind people. I try my absolute best to be. I don't believe I am. I try my best to be. That's a better way of phrasing it because I'm not perfect. But what I do in my spare time is incredibly violent. And I love it. I love what I do in my spare time. The second you start disrespecting me, it goes from, I'm smiling and it's, hi, my name's Henry. It's so great to meet you to, what's this? Did you really just say that? And that was one of those instances where I believe I could have handled it better, but I didn't handle it bad. I didn't, jump over the counter. And my boss was like, I was expecting you to jump over the counter there, which was really funny. But I believe I acted out of emotion in a way that I'm not proud of, despite not me saying or doing anything.
Is that why, with all the wrestling and everything, the self-defense violence aspect of it kind of keeps you from, or allows you to be more extroverted?
Yes. I love that. There is a certain aspect of, you talked to Steven about this, but that if someone gets their hands on you, you're not clueless. You have a somewhat understanding of, hey, I can defend myself using XYZ and I should be able to make it out of this situation, unless they are more trained than me or triple my size. I think I can land on my feet and be somewhat okay. With that comes the fact that if you do train a martial art, you know that the worst possible thing to do is get into a fight. Your first step is to diffuse the situation and not get into a fight because fights can go terrible. No matter how much training you have, someone can stomp on your head. It can go very bad.
Or you can do the Glock defense.
Literally. So that's also a part of it where it's I have more confidence and I have more ability to be extroverted because I know if someone actually tried intimidating, it would just more be this won't go well for you. And not in a cocky way, but I mean, it is just a true way that I have done I've done grappling. I've competed. And I'm confident in my abilities to diffuse a situation using my own hands. I'd much prefer to use my words. I love using my words. I love talking people down. But if you want it to get confrontational or violent, then it's a completely different story. Then I will defend myself. So yeah, confidence definitely elevates when you know that you can protect yourself and the people around you. And that's a great thing, I believe.
Yeah. How would you define respect?
The obvious is it's earned, not given. But I respect everyone. I respect and I trust. Those are the two things I give everyone the second I meet them. Until you give me a reason to not give you either of those things, I will continue with that. And as relationships grow and as I know you for longer, the respect and the trust grows. How would I define respect? I respect different people for different reasons. I respect coaches in the sense that it's, hey, coach, thank you so much for letting me into this practice. It's so great meeting you. Thank you for this opportunity. I respect coworkers, and it's hey, thank you so much for getting my back there. I needed to take this call, and, you were already on the phone, and you took it for me.
But how would you define respect?
How would I?
You could take a minute.
I know, but...
I've got creative editing on my side.
I know, but how would I define respect? That's such a... I don't know. That is a question that I quite literally do not think I have an answer for. How would you define respect?
The most extroverted guy I have met in a very long time.
But how would you define respect?
No, it's funny. It's before I answer that, which I don't even know how to answer it either.
See? It's a hard question, but go.
The strange thing about, I don't think it's strange about you, just I haven't met someone like you before. How... 1, extroverted, 2, trusting, and 3, outgoing you are. In my mind, you've already have this preset it in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for me, it's whenever I think about something, it's what's the best thing for what we're talking about here? You sound like you've already prepared for this conversation a week ago, and you've just been going over it and over it. So it's just cool to see. Respect, because there is different types of respect. There's I can respect someone's skill, I can respect their character, I can respect their past, and have all those separated. I guess respect based on not thinking about this is more admiration. How much do I admire you for who you are right now, without knowing who you want to be, who you have been, but how you're presenting yourself right now, with the understanding that things could be this could be the worst day of the week, and I just happened to meet you first time, worst day of the week, which is fine. It's um, when we were doing the vlog with Jason and Vivian during the what was it, wine night?
Wine night.
Yeah, yeah. I remember. So I'm a morning guy. I'll wake up in the morning until like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I'll have as much energy as possible.
Okay.
And that's when I get all the work done. That's when I do like all the editing. Like everything could be done really, really well during those hours.
Yep.
And then the vlog happened around like it was a little bit in the morning, but it was like mostly like 3, 4 o'clock till 10. For me, I'm not a night guy. Once 9:30, 10 o'clock hits and I'm not close to bed or at home, like winding down, my mind will start like giving me little squirts of adrenaline just to keep me awake, just to keep me going. But the problem is I don't know what happens once that goes away. So I'm like, do I drive right? Like it's dark, especially with like oncoming traffic and stuff. And like I can barely see the road as it is, which is weird at night sometimes. Not that I'm like, I have 20/20 vision. Like, just say legally I have 20/20 vision. I remember at the very end, all 5 batteries died. The recording was like 5 hours at this point. So like I was done mentally. There wasn't really much more to do. But I remember before I left, I went over to Vivian and I kind of gave her like a more harsh voice than I would give to most people, mostly because I wanted to get out as soon as possible. But at the same time, I wanted to tell her that like, I don't even know what I said. I just remember it was harsh sounding, even to my mind. And sometimes that'll happen. Like I'll say something and it'll
Instantly, you're like, oh.
it's not even that. It's like it bounces out in my head, almost like an echo. It's like it just keeps going on and on. I'm like, should I have said it like that? Was it taken the wrong way? And that's mostly like and I don't know Vivian very well, but like when I see how she handles you guys, how she handles the job, and kind of like because I also understand because I do operations for the piano company. I guess in that point, like I respected her for how she's handling all this stuff.
Yes.
So I felt really bad saying it like that, but I kept forgetting that I said it that way. And so respect for me would be, who are you? What kind of person are you? And can I respect you for who you are? You're 2 years younger than me. I can respect you for the grind. Like 100%. I might not understand like, why would you ever think about drinking? Like I never did that. For me, that's like a whole like barrier because that's how I grew up.
Absolutely.
Do I disrespect you for that? Absolutely not. It's like it was your past. It doesn't happen anymore. But I can definitely respect you for right now, who you are. Will I see you a month from now? Will I see you 2 years from now? Like, would we have a great friendship, or is it just going to be like a little thing? I have no idea. Mm-hmm. But I can respect you for what you're doing right now, and the fact that I don't mean touchy-feely here, but I see a lot of potential of where you're going to go.
I really appreciate that.
Like if you became the best in the country, I wouldn't be that surprised. And I'm not
that
saying
is the goal.
but like I wouldn't be surprised if you became the top in the country, even if it's not number one, like the top 3. Which I know it's like, well, I could be number 1. You're still the best.
I love what you're saying. Obviously everyone foresees themselves as number 1. But shoot for the stars, aim for the moon kind of thing. If I'm the 3rd best in the country, I can look at myself and I can wake up and I can look at myself and I can say it took me 3 years to become the 3rd best in the country at a sport I had no experience in. Right. That is mind blowing, and I'm so proud of myself for that. Or conversely, I could be bottom 50 and I can still wake up and I can look at myself and I can say, I'm proud of the fact that every practice that I got asked to go to, every coach that I reached out to that said yes, every time that I had an opportunity, I took it and I went and I tried my hardest. And that is what means the most to me as a competitor, as an athlete. It's the satisfaction in knowing that, if things go my way, awesome. The work I did, it led up to something great, and I'm so proud of that. If it doesn't go my way, I did everything I could. I don't want to live with regret. I want to live with the fact that I know I did everything in my power and more to get to the goals that I have set out for me. And if I don't hit them, I did it. I'm still proud of the experiences and the people and the life lessons I've learned. When I do hit them, it's going to be, feels so good because I worked so hard for this, and there's not a single person who can take that away from me. And that's what I look forward to. You said something that I wanted to go on a tangent on. Here we go. So I had this conversation with my coach yesterday, and this is like I don't know if this is like a glimpse into how I think, but like in wrestling and anything competitive, your brain, if you want to be the best, there has to be a certain wiring that isn't correct. I mean, it just isn't. The best people are not normal people. And this is so funny to me. I remember filming at Virginia Tech, and I was filming, and this kid came up to me, and he's a Virginia State placer. He's actually a really, really nice kid. He's like, hey, we should wrestle. And instantly my answer was absolutely. I was like, let's wrestle. And in my mind, him asking to wrestle is, friendly, and he just wants to get better, likewise. But in my mind, he wants to be able to tell people that he took the social media wrestling guy down. And I cannot live with that. Is that true? No.
Was that just based, like you perceive that based on that one interaction?
That in every consecutive interaction. The more that people see my videos, because it's kind of funny. You walk into these rooms and people are like, oh my God, I've seen your videos and I love them. And, my answer is always, thank you so much, man. That really means so much to me, because it does. But then there's also a part of me that after they tell me how much they love my videos, they come up to me and they say, hey, we should wrestle. In my mind, I want to be able to say that I took down the guy who makes wrestling videos.
Is that because they don't know you as a person, but they just know you based on what you do?
I think it's just something that I conjure in my head. It's something that I need to feel more competitive with them, because I don't want to give them the satisfaction. I don't want them to be able to walk away and say, yeah, I took him down. Do they take me down? Yeah. But in my mind, it's, they're asking me to wrestle because they want to be able to say that they can take down the wrestling social media guy, which I, in my mind, will not tolerate. That's instantly when my brain goes from content creator to competitor.
Yeah. My mind's wired a different way. Do you know the quote, winners focus on winning and losers focus on winners?
I love it, but elaborate.
That's how I think of it. If no one comes up to me because what I do is no one listens to podcasts. As far as I know, not many people would listen to any of the podcasts. There's some people who regularly view it, but for the most part, if someone came up to me and said, I'm going to do an episode better than you've ever done, I would take that with like you see me as a source of competition. I know one guy, every time we meet, no matter what it is, somehow he's trying to compete against me. Mm-hmm. He's trying to one up me. Like, oh yeah, I did that better than Aaron. Oh yeah, I did that. I'm like,
which are the worst kind of people?
He's been on the podcast twice at the very beginning. One for when I did my single camera setup, and then when I did my 2 camera setup. I might as well say it's John Caesar. Weird kid. Okay, he's like basically my age, but weird as hell. And almost every single time, he's just trying to compete with me, which is fine. Like, I don't mind that, especially since he's not trying to push me down. He's just trying to figure out how. I guess I'm just I don't know. It's a weird comparison. Kind of what you said when we were talking. No one is going to coddle you.
Yes.
It's almost like, what's going to happen once they beat you?
The competitor, bonehead, stubborn part of myself is saying that it won't happen. But what happens when they beat me? I shake hands with them. Yeah. I walk off the mat. I talk to my coach. I say, hey, what do we have to do to improve? He tells me, and I do it.
Winners focus on winning.
It's so simple. This is a great quote. Higher Up Wellness, who is a huge TikTok guy. I remember watching his stuff back before he blew up, and he was saying that, do the obvious thing for an extraordinary amount of time. It's do the ordinary for an extraordinary amount of time. And at this point in time, in 23 months of wrestling, 18 of which I've been cleared to actually wrestle, I still haven't done it for an extraordinary amount of time. That is, in fact, a very subpar amount of time. But the quote still stands to reason. It's, how do you get good at jiu-jitsu? Well, you have to do it 5 times a week, and you have to do that, stack it up over 5 years, and you might be a purple belt by then. You might be. You maybe could be a purple belt by then. How do you get good at wrestling? You drill the same thing for, 50 reps for 5 years, and then you might have a good single leg. You might have a good snap down.
I'm thinking like what you said, you haven't been doing it for an extraordinary amount of time, but you have. Not timeline wise, but intensity.
Yes.
That's what makes it extraordinary.
And so this was when I first started wrestling, I was like, okay, well, I can't make up 16 years of wrestling that I didn't do. That's just not feasible. So what are things I can do that I'm not on the mat that get me better? Well, it's like, okay, nutrition. I was already into that prior to wrestling. So I was like, I understand nutrition. I understand weightlifting. And I'm slowly starting to understand wrestling. How about I watch as much film as humanly possible. So I would, track wrestling is basically like the bracket. Now there's multiple, but track wrestling is where you find most wrestling tournaments at. I'd go on track wrestling. I type in VHSL, which is Virginia High School State League, and VHSL state championships. And I would go through, I'd look at who won the state tournament. I'd watch 10 of their matches. And then I'd see, them lose to someone. And I'd be like, okay, wait, that's crazy. He's really good. I'd click on that guy's profile and he's winning, national tournaments. And then not even winning, actually. He's placing 8th at national tournaments. I'm like, wait, this guy who beat the guy who I thought was the best wrestler ever is losing and not winning at these tournaments. Who's winning the tournaments? And then it just slowly built into more and more understanding of watching film. And that's where like my love for wrestling really started from, because there are certain things that I will never be able to do in wrestling. I mean, I don't have that style. I do not wrestle that way. And that's completely fine. There are certain things in jiu-jitsu that like, have you ever been omoplated by Bob?
Maybe.
There's so much commonality.
On record, maybe.
There's so much commonality between us because he omoplated me every single day. And I can look at that and I can think, I will never have an omoplata as good as Bob, but I can respect it and I can learn from it. So it's the same thing with wrestling. I'm looking at these people who are hitting disgusting double legs where they just blast double, they run straight through you. That's not how I wrestle. But I can look at it and I can say, okay, well, how did he set it up? Is the timing? Is it from a snap? Is it from, he's circling and then he goes? And slowly, I started picking up on these more nuanced things. And then it went from watching high school to college. And then from college, now I'm watching the freestyle, which is the senior level of Olympic, world championship type of stuff. And now I watch it all. Like it is, this weekend, there's a tournament called Fargo, which is the biggest high school freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling tournament, period, outside of world championships. So it's the biggest in America, point blank, period. And I know a lot of my buddies who are going out there to compete, and I'm going to be watching not only all of their matches for all of the guys who are from Team Virginia, because I love this state, I love the VA USA administration, but also I was just up in PA. I'm going to watch how those guys are going to do. I've been wrestling with people from North Carolina. I'm going to see how those guys do. I know people from California. I want to see how those guys do. So it's just a matter of how many matches can I watch of different people and see their style. And, this has worked out weirdly well for me. I'll see something and I'll think to myself, I can do that, so I'm going to go try it. It was the same thing when I talked about earlier with the slide by from watching the Caden Henschel video. That is still a part of my wrestling. I still hit slide bys. They are more low percentage against higher level wrestlers, which I mean, all moves are. The better guy you go against, the less your go-to move is going to work. But, I'm watching Aaron Brooks, who's a Penn State wrestler. He has a beautiful outside step shot where he doesn't hit his knee. And I look at that and I was like, I want to hit that. That's all I've been drilling. That's all I shoot now. All I shoot is outside steps. And Real Woods, who is on the world team, he has a beautiful left-sided single leg. So that's all I've been drilling on the left side of the body. There's 1,000 different wrestlers that I can tell. Yanni Diakomahalis, 4-time NCAA champ for Cornell. He has one of the craziest styles I've ever seen. So when a guy has an underhook, he will go far side sweep. I'd never seen it before. When a guy has a 2-on-1 Russian tie, he'll go far side sweep. And I remember seeing this in match when he was wrestling PJ Duke at Final X, which is how you become a Team USA World Team member. I remember seeing that in match, and I think to myself, why have I not tried that before? I get into the practice room the next day, a guy gets a 2-on-1 on me, and I just go, do it. And just in my head, I was like, you saw this yesterday. You know how this is going to play out if you hit it hard and you trust that it's going to be there, and it's been working. And then when, you go into these rooms with these guys who are world team members and nationally ranked, and, the second practice is done, my questions are, how do you hit X, Y, and Z? So I was just with Bo Bassett, and he has a beautiful overtie snap, like one of the most gnarliest, where he'll grab your ear, he'll pull your ear to your bicep and snap you down, and you will eat the mat. And I remember watching it in matches. I mean, I've seen so many of this guy's matches, but watching it in matches, watching him compete at Worlds and see him hit it on international competition. And I asked him, I was just like, what are you doing that's getting these people? And he's like, I'm so glad you asked. You do X, Y, and Z. God, what was the question? I just kind of went off on a tangent.
If you ever say social media on anything else that you're not extraordinary, I will beat you up. I'm not going to win, but I'm definitely going to beat you up any way I can. Probably psychological.
But it was intensity based off wrestling. And so, yeah, the whole roundabout way of saying this is that watching film, figuring out what you can do to improve while not on the mat is huge.
And that's what makes you extraordinary.
I don't disagree.
You don't stop thinking about it.
It's all I think about.
And then your brain, that's all your brain processes. That's all the information you have. It might be very specialized to one little thing, but if you do one thing really, really well, you're going to be the best in that one thing. Sure, maybe you won't be the best editor in the world. Maybe you won't be the best recorder in the world. The fact that you didn't even know that you could do 4K 60 on your phone, I was kind of weird. It was really weird.
Okay, so you said this earlier. Yeah. And I remember I've talked to a few brands and companies about like brand deals and this, and you were talking about how it seems like I have all these answers pre-recorded and I've been thinking about this for the past week. Well, when I'm on phone calls with companies who are like, hey, we really like your stuff, we want to send you X, Y, and Z, and they want to know more about me. So they're like, how long have you been doing this, wrestling and social media? And I was like, well, wrestling, it's been 23 months and 18 months of actually being on the mat. And for social media, it's been 3 months. Actually, not even. It's been 2.5. I started posting in April 21st, I believe was my first post. And they say the same thing. They're like, oh yeah, so, how do you write your scripts? Like, what are you doing to get the knowledge beforehand? It's like, dude, I look at brackets. I screenshot pictures. I go on Snapchat and I put it behind me and I say, this is what I'm talking about. And they're like, wait, you don't have a script. You haven't been doing this for very long. You go completely off the cuff. And I go, yes, yes, and yes. All 3 of those things, it's completely organic. It's natural. And, in the past month, I made a video that I was not proud of because I put the cart before the horse. I jumped on something before I knew everything about it. And that's going to happen. That will happen probably a dozen more times within the next 2 years. So just comes with the part of learning and being so new to this content thing that you can't just jump on these stories and be like, yes, this is the truth, guys. You need to listen to this. And that will come with more content creation. And I obviously love talking. I love speaking. I love my opinion, I don't believe matters that much, but it does feel nice when, you get texts of people saying that they really enjoy what you're making. And specifically, this is another example here. Vito Arujau, who is a world champ for Team USA as well as a world bronze medalist for Team USA. He also wrestled at Cornell, 2-time national champ. I made a video because he delayed his wrestle off to make the world team. And he delayed it because of, I don't know what injury it was. I believe he needed surgery or he just needed more time off the mat, whatever it may be. People were I don't know if outrage is the right word, but people were bashing Vito. And they were saying that, you're always injured. What's 4 more weeks going to do for your health? And me looking at it, I'm just like, well, he's competed in the 2024 at Worlds where he took a bronze medal home. 2023, he was a world champ. He's still going to wrestle the person he's supposed to wrestle. And this is a gentleman who has been a world champ for Team USA 4 separate times between senior level, junior, and then cadet, which is 16 age group. And you guys are getting on him because he needs 4 weeks extra to prepare physically to wrestle. Shame on you, just like point blank period. That is not a fair thing to say to someone who has done so much for Team USA wrestling. And he commented on the video. And that type of stuff that you see is awesome. And that makes me very happy.
It comes down to people who don't understand or just don't want to care to understand why something is, because most of the time they just haven't been in the same situation. So it's like there was one, I don't know who said it. It was basically, there's this person who always does like live events, does stage talking and everything, and he was talking about how it doesn't matter how he feels. It doesn't matter if something happened the day before. It doesn't matter if he didn't get enough sleep. He has to go on stage because people paid to see him on stage. They don't care if his dog died the previous day. They don't care if he has gotten the last 5 days, no sleep whatsoever. They're expecting, hey, I put my time into this. I put money into this. I want you to give me what I was expecting.
Yes.
And that's just how the world is.
I could not agree more. As vain or as crazy as you may think it is, it's like, well, something just happened to me and I have to go out there and perform and it's unfair. But the world, that date isn't going to change. The day that you have to weigh in and compete in wrestling, it could be 2 days after you tear your MCL. And this happened to one of my teammates. He tore his MCL. Because I was biking and I was watching it, and his knee, I still don't know how he did this. It was insane. His knee popped and I heard it. I was on the bike. I was 6 feet away from him and I heard it pop. His knee was the size of like 2 softballs. It was huge. He put the biggest brace on of all time. He weighed in, he went out there, and he competed. And things like that, people like that respect isn't a high enough praise to give them. because it takes a different level of person, human, competitor to go out there knowing that something is so wrong and you're still going to go out there and do it. And I cannot speak more highly of Talion Elliott, who is my roommate and the teammate that I'm referring to. God, such a great guy. Actually, such a wonderful, wonderful human.
Yeah. Is one level above respect love?
I would say admiration. I just because I am unable to define respect in my own terms, I think I admire Talion for that. I respect him. I also admire him because I see how he works. I see the effort he puts in, and the same goes for a lot of my teammates, where I see the work they're putting in and I see them battling through something, whether it be, their family back home or they're physically injured or whatever it may be, because I've been in that situation. I've been in the situation where I couldn't wrestle. And I remember so vividly, my coach asked if I could address the team. This was, I think, a week before surgery. So this would be November 2nd. We got done with practice and no. This would be like November 30th because I had surgery December 9th. Sorry. But I remember telling them, I was like, hey guys, I am going to be out for the rest of the season and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm so appreciative and grateful of everyone. And everyone came up to me and they're like, we are, we're here for you and we respect how much effort you put into this team. And, stuff like that. I admire those people. I admire the people who came up to me when I needed it. And now I admire them the same way, that they're going to be going out there and they're going to be competing and they're going to be going out there to battle. And I love them. And there's zero shame. There's zero regret in saying that, or hesitance in saying that I love the people who I've surrounded myself with because I've chosen those people. And I will only come in contact with, I don't want to say better, but greater and more incredible people down the line. But I'll never forget who was there for me when, when this happened, who was texting me every single day. God, Ian Morales. I seriously don't think I could fit enough words to talk about how highly I think of this man in a 2-hour episode. We went to Las Vegas to compete in this thing called the Desert Duels. So we flew out to Las Vegas. This was 2 weeks after surgery. I was still in a sling. 4 weeks. You need to be in a sling after labrum surgery. So he carried my bag throughout the entire airport. And then after, because he lives in California, and this was our winter break right after the tournament. So he flew back home to wherever he lived, Exeter. And he flew back home. And then on the way back, my other teammate and roommate, I have 3 roommates, Mujin, he carried my stuff all the way back home. And it's just things like that they don't think about that. They'll probably be like, yeah, I carried Henry's stuff, so what? But they don't understand how much it meant to me in the moment that they did that. There's so many different tangents I can go off on praise in terms of the program that I'm so proud to be a part of, which is Marymount Wrestling. The people I've been put in contact with. Me and my coach are going out to Nebraska early August to train with their wrestling team, which is the second best in the country, Division I. So I'm just so pumped and looking forward to all of the fantastic opportunities I have ahead of me.
I want to go to that quote that you said that you've put on Instagram. That it was a long thing that you stated.
It was a long caption.
All of this to say, the people you choose to surround yourself with have a great impact on your life. I know not what the future holds for me, and for all I know, I could suffer another season-ending injury when I get back. Pray not, but life works in funny ways. But what I do know is that the people around have made me a much more gracious, powerful, and supportive person.
Speak to it. You want me to speak to it?
I don't know. It was such a beautiful quote. I was just like,
I appreciate that.
Damn, I didn't know you were that intelligent. But no, I'm kidding.
Double Dean's List, by the way. 3.88 GPA.
That's it? Just
3.8?
You could have done better. You could still point 2 more.
Ready? Get this.
Twice?
So my sister, who, another person that I can go on tangents about how much I appreciate her, she is the smartest human I know. Civil engineering major. Her GPA, cumulatively, amongst 4 years of school, is a 4.0. There was not a single semester she had lower than an A, which is insane. So I tell people 3.88, and they're like, oh, that's cool, that's great. And in my head, I'm like, this is competitiveness, but it's like, I am nothing because my sister has 0.12 better GPA than me, and I cannot live with that. I remember I got my second semester grades, and it was like A minus. And I sent it to her and I was like, this will never happen again. I was like, I cannot live with the fact that you have been doing better than me in school. And, will I end with a 4.0? No, because it's not mathematically possible anymore. But I will try my absolute best to get there. In terms of that quote was, I want to say fresh off of surgery. Like it might have been a month after surgery. And I put in screenshots of like my teammates, my coaches, and, what I was going through. Surgery is hard. And if I could pick, I would much rather I tear my other labrum than tear my knee, because a knee surgery is, you can't walk. And something that keeps me sane is walking. I walk so much. Like it's insane how many steps I get. And I could still do that. So that part of my life wasn't taken away from me. The wrestling part was, but like I could still be around wrestling and I could still watch wrestling. So there were other things I could put my time and energy into that helped me get through it. But a lot of that was because of the people I was surrounding myself with. And, I always like the show up early, leave late kind of mindset. So if my teammates if they needed someone there and they were cutting weight, I would be there. And I would love to think, and I know for a fact that this upcoming year, when I'm cutting weight, they will also be there for me. So, and even if it isn't reciprocated, I can still respect the fact that, they're going through something hard and they're still doing it. And I love that. I love that about people. I love people who are willing to do the hard thing. That just speaks volumes to who they are as a person.
How much time do you have?
What time is it?
It's like 12, 15?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay.
I think I'm like 47 minutes away from practice.
There was some other stuff, but just because 10 minutes. I wish we had more time. Who do you want to be 10 years from now? And what would you have told yourself 5 years ago?
Ooh.
Whichever one you want to start with.
I love both of these questions. Honestly, who I would want to be 10 years from now is, it won't be the same person that you're seeing in front of you right now, but I hope it to be, I have the same values, just more maturity, more life experience, more people come to me for answers instead of the opposite. But I can confidently say that I'm incredibly proud of the person I am now. And I will only imagine that it continues to get better and better and better. So, and I have no idea what the person 10 years from now will be, but I can understand that just based off trajectory, based off the past 2 years and the amount of growth since I began wrestling versus now, another 10 years of being around the sport and competing and making videos, I'm sure that I envision nothing but, I don't want to say success because I don't chase monetary value out of anything, truthfully. There have been sponsorships that I've turned down because it's like, I'd never use your product. I'd never wear your clothes. I'm not going to sell something that I do not personally use to a bunch of people online. Oh God, I lost my train of thought. No. But I mean, point being is that I'm proud of the person I am now. And 10 years from now, I hope I can look back in 10 years and say, yeah, I am still so proud of the person I was 10 years ago. Now, conversely, I look at the person who I was 5 years ago, and I am not proud. There are thousands of things that I wish I could go back and I could restate, redo, but I can't. I'm not reliving the past. Dave has such a great quote about this, and I might be mistaking it, but it's like, don't live in the past because you only suffer twice. Something.
Don't worry about things because worrying makes you suffer twice.
Yes, worrying makes you suffer twice. And I think of that quote in reference to what my life was 5 years ago. I can look back and I can tell you all these things that I did that I wish I did differently. And trust me, there are thousands of things I wish I did differently. But it already happened. It's just a matter of who I can be now and who I plan to be in the next 10 years, which is someone who is growing wrestling, is putting other people's interviews and videos talking about wrestling. And obviously as a competitor, I have goals of becoming a national champ and being a US Open All-American. Like those are my two set in stone goals I have written. My phone lock screen is a text from my coach saying, I can't wait for you to be a national champ someday. And that's just how I live, and that's how I envision myself in 10 years, being able to look back and say, yeah, I did accomplish all those goals. Or, how we talked about earlier, I didn't accomplish any of those goals, but I did everything I could to do so. And that would be enough. I will sleep soundly, and the world will keep spinning, and I'll walk off the mat, and my family will still love me. All of these things that are so great about my life will still happen, whether or not I'm a national champ, or I lose every single match from here on out. The latter will not happen, but still, it's just, something that I think of. And then 5 years ago, what I would tell myself, not a thing. If I could go back and change the light,
not change, just talk to him.
If I could talk to him, oh my God, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You are going to screw up, and you're going to screw up massively. And you're going to screw up massively, and you're going to think that that's your biggest screw up, and then you're going to do it twice over. And you have to. You have to make these mistakes, because if it were not for those mistakes that you are going to make, you would not be in this room talking to these people that I have in my phone with these opportunities that I have been very graciously given. And if the question was, if I were to go back and change something, it would be not a thing. I would do everything exactly how I did it. If I could, obviously, if my consciousness reverted back 5 years into that body, I would have started wrestling and I would have been a kinder, more gracious person. But if I'm just talking to myself, don't change a thing. Do exactly what you are going to do. Make the mistakes you need to make. Because I'm saying this, I've been saying this, but I am immensely proud of the person that I am now and the person that I've become because of the grave mistakes I have made in, the 14 to 17, really 13 to 17-year-old me made. That guided who I am now. And I wouldn't have these life experiences. You need the bad things. You need the horrible things in life in order to look at, reflect on, and grow from. And I'm sure that, within the next 10 years, something bad will happen. My knee will pop. My other shoulder will break. Everything is always great until it's not. And then I'll get over that hill. And then it'll be upward again. But I know that, I could, like I said in that quote, I could get back and everything in my body could break down. I could do something that makes me never be able to wrestle again. The social media. I can still go out to these programs. I can still talk to these people. I can still get interviews. I can still spread wrestling to people that, one, are either in wrestling and want more wrestling content. Awesome. But the people I'm eyeing are the people who have never wrestled, because I was that kid. And if I saw those videos when I was 14, when I was 13, 14, 15, and I was like, you know what, this wrestling thing is pretty cool, I might give it a try, I could change not only my past self's life, but more importantly, everyone who sees my videos' lives. I want their lives to be changed by this phenomenal sport. And it doesn't even have to be wrestling. It can be jujitsu. It can be just weightlifting. If you are doing something hard, there's something about that where you're doing something hard every single day. It calluses you. You become a more gracious person. You become a more kind person to people. And that is what matters to me. Just spreading wrestling and being a kind and gracious person to as many people as possible. Because I wasn't that for the longest time.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Seriously.
I wish I have like 12 tangents I want to go off of, but time is time.
Absolutely. We should set something up. If you have more, I'm more availability. It's what, July? I know I'm going to be in PA in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I don't like, when's your next competitions?
Oh God, that's, well,
October, November?
Yeah.
Okay. We could do it in December.
I would love to post competitions mid-season. That would be
and then after
money.
more social media and stuff. Yeah,
absolutely.
We could definitely do December.
So I'm totally down for that.
Assuming I'm still doing this, yeah. Well,
I would hope you still do this because you asked phenomenal questions.
I doubt I would stop. There's nothing else in my mind anymore.